is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thalahungva. Here are the headlines for Friday, July 31st, 2020. Canada's new $2 coin features the work of a Haida artist. Bill Reed's painting of a black Haida grizzly bear is now on the coin known as a toonie. On Tuesday, the Royal Canadian Mint launched the new coin. 3 million will be in circulation, with 2 million being produced in full color. Reed was a painter, sculptor, jewelry maker, and broadcaster who is credited with making Indigenous Northwest Coast art popular on the world stage. He died in 1998. The coins were launched to celebrate 100 years since his birth. Nika Collison said she was blown away by the Mint's work to pay tribute to her grandfather with the commemorative coin. Collison says her grandfather was a bridge between our culture and the world.
La dejaré brillar, la dejaré brillar, dejar brillar.
In Minnesota, a public service announcement for Census 2020 is featuring the Ojibwe language. It's in the form of a song, urging local residents to fill out their census data. The song is in English, Spanish, and Ojibwe. The city of Duluth teamed up with local artists who wrote the song and produced the music video called Let It Shine. It's an effort to send a powerful message about how everyone counts. The video is on the city's Facebook page, and viewers are encouraged to turn on the captioning so they can see the 3 languages represented. Madison Hammond is the first Native American to play in the National Women's Soccer League. Hammond is Navajo, San Felipe, and African American. She was invited to try out for the OL Reigns preseason camp in Seattle. She made the team and signed a short-term contract. Then came more good news.
And then that week went by of training. And at the end of the week, our owner, Bill Predmore, called me. He goes, we want to just skip the short term and we're just going to offer you a long-term contract. And I was in a hotel lobby, in a hallway of the hotel, just absolutely blown away. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Hammond signed a 2-year contract with a 3rd-year option. Her first game on national television had an audience of 500,000 viewers. The league played a 1-month-long season in Montana, where the team finished in 3rd place. And now for an update on COVID-19 in Indian Country, let's go to Jordan Bennett-Begay. Jordan?
Yate Patty, Yate Shikisto Shidane. This pandemic continues to affect tribes and families everywhere, Patty. The Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma lost 2 elders to COVID-19. Both were fluent speakers of the Cherokee language. One elder was 67-year-old Edna Dolly Raber. The tribe's newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix, reported that she died on July 4th. Principal Chief Chuck Hoskins Jr. sent his condolences to the family. He said, quote, "When we lose our language, we lose our identity, and COVID-19 has been the single most threat to our language in this generation, taking from us speakers such as Dolly." The second Cherokee speaker was Faye Deason. She was 63 when she died on April 13th. She worked for the tribe for 25 years at the Wilma P. Mankiller Health Center. Those close to her described her as the pillar of her family. She was the second Cherokee Nation employee to be tested in the tribe's health system who died from the virus. The first employee death was 70-year-old Karen Ketcher back in April. One Cherokee council member reminded people to keep each other safe by wearing masks, social distancing, and listening to health experts so no more people are lost to the virus. Cases for the White Mountain Apache tribe in Arizona are slowing down, but they're still trickling in. The tribe saw 7 more cases and 1 additional death, bringing the total to 2,258 cases and 35 deaths. And the Navajo Nation that spans across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah passed the 9,000 mark for positive cases. The tribe reported 51 new cases and 1 death in the community. And now here's a look at the rest of the numbers from our database. There are 15,373 positive cases and 637 deaths in the Indian health system. Again, that's a total of 15,373 positive cases and 637 deaths as of July 31st, Patty.
We continue to see the rise in COVID-19 cases in Indian Country. Jordan Bennett-Begay, thank you so much.
Yeah, Patty.
And we'll be right back.
This is Indian Country Today.
Welcome back. 56 years ago, a young Lakota runner shocked the Olympic world when he came from behind to win the 10,000 meter race at the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. Today, Billy Mills expected to be sitting in the stands watching the 10,000 meter race, but with the pandemic, he didn't go. Instead, he's here with us today. Welcome, Billy Mills.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I could not think of a better place to be than with you today.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. And yes, the pandemic changed everything. You were going to be in Japan today to watch this race. But, 56 years ago, does that seem still to you, seem like only yesterday when you won the gold medal?
Absolutely. It seems like it just happened. And the reason why, I etched into my mind, my body, and my soul, starting about 2 years before the Olympic Games, that one moment in time. And it is so powerful there today, simply because I didn't seek to win a gold medal. All I wanted to do was to heal a broken soul.
And you talk about that. You've been posting in this last year, the Road to Tokyo, these essays that are on your website that really bring all of us into the preparation that you were undertaking as you prepared for the Olympics. And when you talk about a broken soul, explain that a little bit more to perhaps people who may not be as familiar with your story.
I think growing up, the Eska, mixed blood, I didn't really belong into the full blood world, nor did I belong into the white world. But I knew no white relatives. So my heart and soul was in the Lakota world. And my dad was preparing me in his own way. Then he died when I was 12, and I was thrust into a dominant society, totally unprepared for what I call today the footprints of the doctrine of discovery, manifest destiny. This land is a gift to the European immigrants from God. Slavery, Jim Crow, the new Jim Crow today, the war on drugs. Those footprints are not understood in America, but they created generational trauma, generational privilege. And I can articulate that today. But when I was a child growing up, it just provided a world that I didn't feel I belonged.
And in that process, you were sent to Haskell School. You went there for a couple of years and you ran track. And in that time frame, not only are you dealing with a lot of the oppression of the days, but you were also discovering that you had diabetes.
Well, actually, I didn't understand what was happening to me when I ran. I could be emerging elite, and then I'd fall apart, maybe 400 yards, 300 yards from the finish, and found out 13 months before the Olympic Games that I was type 2 diabetic. I was called pre-diabetic, but hypoglycemic, and I'd go low blood sugar. If you go low blood sugar, there's a quiet form of depression that comes with it. And that form of depression, also facing the racism of the day, brought on suicidal thoughts. I didn't belong. And I was too immature to understand that. And my dad told me it takes a dream to heal a broken soul. So I was going to create my own dream, but that was to heal a broken soul. And I had to find a passion to do that. I enjoyed the outdoors. I enjoyed running. So running and the Olympics and trying to win a gold medal became the catalyst to heal a broken soul.
And during your training to get to the Olympics and even to qualify, what was your favorite memory? What is your favorite memory of those days of training?
I think the favorite memories would be at Camp Pendleton, not knowing at the time that land also was the sacred lands of the Pechanga and a couple other California tribal nations. And when I would run out in those hills, that was their sacred lands, I felt empowered. I truly felt that a spirit world was with me. And I had no idea why I felt that way until years later, talking to one of the tribal leaders at Pechanga. And they simply said, Billy, you were running on our sacred lands. And perhaps our ancestors and some of yours were there encouraging you. That's one of the real sacred highlights of my running career.
Wow. Always acknowledging the land, the people from that land is a very powerful connection. And so in your training and leading up to the Olympics, tell us a little bit about that as you got closer to the Olympics. So, today we're at the end of July. Where were you in July of 1964 at the beginning as you're preparing to now travel to Japan for the Olympics?
That's the memory I try to forget.
Oh dear.
I was in New York City at the pre-Olympic trials, wanting to qualify in the 5,000, the 10,000 and the marathon for the games. And I went low blood sugar, blacked out. I don't even know if I finished. And it frightened me. And the first time I came so close to just letting the dream go, decided you better take care of your health. You're basically type 2 diabetic. You go low blood sugar. No doctors can tell you what to do. I need to protect myself. And Patricia simply said that evening, without me telling her what my thoughts were, she said, don't you think we should start getting my airline ticket and my hotel reservations made in Tokyo? So I did. I went and borrowed the money from the bank. It's $800 to get her airline ticket, her lodging, etc. Then I felt I'll never be able to pay this back. I went on a 25-mile run. Now, every step of the way, my feet pounding on the earth, do I need Patricia there to win? And went back and actually I took the money back to the bank. So I went back and borrowed the money again and started the process of getting her ticket to go. But that solidified the commitment. It was etched into my mind, my body, my soul, and I made a commitment. And she was with me. She was a vital part of the team. And from that point on, almost every thought throughout the day was the objective: gold medal 10,000 meter run. Not to become an Olympian, but to learn how to live with my total being, half Lakota, half white, and be able to deal with who I am as an individual and try to make a contribution to the world.
Well, I think everyone agrees that you have done that, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Pat, because you two met in college, and you're now on how many years of marriage? And she, like you said, she's been a big part of your success and your journey.
Well, she gave up her art career at that time to help me pursue my dream. So I knew that I had to give back to her like she's given to me. But the closing days of my race, we were going on a sightseeing tour, and I got off the sightseeing bus and said, I have to go back to the village. I have to stay focused. But just things happening. Get on the bus to go to my race. Sit down by a young girl from Poland. What event are you in? I said, the 10,000 meter run. Who's going to win? And I knew I had to say me. So I said, I'm going to win. I go to get my track shoes. Adidas was the sponsor. The US representative said, we have shoes just left for the potential medal winners. So I said, but I'm going to win. And he escorts me out the room. A reporter stopping me and saying, you're the American Indian? I said, yes. He said, I'm Indian from India. We talked about Jim Thorpe, and then the great Jim Thorpe. And he said, how do you think you're going to do? I said, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to win. So now we're into the race. And immediately Ron Clark gets onto world record pace. We're running under world record pace. We're halfway through the race, and they're ready to break me, but there's 4 of us left. We're breaking the field. I have to stay with the 4. They get 10 yards ahead of me, and I came so close to letting go, but I'm right where Patricia's sitting, and she's like 14 rows from the track, and I can't quit here. Just one more try. Then I decided to do what I'd been practicing, to run as efficiently as I can, to allow me to run as fast as I can, which called for relaxing just a bit, rather than trying harder, relaxing just a bit to run more efficiently, to allow me to run as fast as I could. So I tried that. I took the lead, picked up the pace. Ron Clark took the lead again, then he slowed it. or halfway through the race. That was such a powerful moment for me. My thoughts were, I'm going to be with him to the final stretch. I'm going to be with the leaders to the final stretch. 2 laps to go. We break the 4th runner. There's 3 of us left. So then I knew it's going to come down to who makes the move first. Who is that going to be? And then 300 meters to go, I'm pushed out. I stumble, I close back on the shoulder, and I'm going low blood sugar. Just a tingling sensation, vision. You can't go from A to B in thought. And coming off the final curve, one more try. That's where my dad, when I was a little boy, would tell me, son, you need to find a passion. You need a dream. Develop the talents, bring them together. Boom, magic happens. He had me believing I could create magic. Then he died. My world came tumbling down. 85 meters to go. I pass the runner. I look at the runner I'm passing. There's the eagle on his singlet. That was my dad saying, someday, son, you could have wings of an eagle. And it was so powerful, it was so magical, so sacred. Wings of an eagle, I can win. And I'm going to win, but I may not get to the finish line first. Did I contradict myself? Then wings of an eagle, I won. An official came up and said, new Olympic champion. And I go, do I have one more lap? And he said, new Olympic champion. And I said, number 1. And I find that guy with the eagle on his singlet, there's no eagle. On the victory stand, our national anthem is being played. It's powerful, it's beautiful, but I knew I did not belong. America did not know me, a Lakota person, locked outside of the American dream. I knew I didn't belong. Later that night, I wake up and I said, Pat, I know what it meant. I'm going to win, but I may not get to the finish line first. That was the race I was in. Pat, I healed a broken soul. And in the process, I won an Olympic gold medal. So I don't know how many Olympians may have experienced what I did, but that was my Olympic moment. I wanted to give back and created Running Strong for American Indian Youth. And drilling water wells at the beginning. Now we connect homes out on the reservations to the main water line so they can have a shower. They can have hot water for cooking, bathing, drinking, etc. Billy Mills, Running Strong program co-founder. We have the Dream Starters program. Any young person that has a dream that can empower their community. We have a program for them to help support them. And tomorrow, the Run with Billy, Pat and I are going to walk, jog a mile, or maybe the 5K, but there's a 10K run, just to support the healthy tomorrow for Native American youth and support their dreams, to empower their dreams.
That's been part of your legacy after winning the gold medal. Not to mention, no one in the Western Hemisphere, as you said earlier, no one has won the gold medal. No American has won the gold medal since you set that record 56 years ago. Billy Mills, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Stay safe and appreciate being on your program.
And we'll be right back.
Not all Native women especially come from such supportive environments, and you know, life throws people a lot of different things, and I've been lucky enough to not have to deal with a lot of life's harsher realities. But I want to at least in this next year in my rookie season, work on creating my own platform and creating a responsible platform, so that once I have something that's big enough to say, or I have created enough resources and have enough support, I can actually give back to communities. Because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to give back to Native communities. It's like, okay, well then what does that look like to you? And it's like, I don't want to give empty promises to people who might experience empty promises all the time. So I think for me, it's making sure I'm creating a responsible platform, doing all the right things, being a good representative for Native communities, but also so that when the time comes and people are like, all right, Madison, what do you have to say? And it's just something that can be really impactful for someone that's younger and sees somebody that looks like them.
Billy Mills' place in history is solid and unique. To put this into perspective, we're joined by Phil Deloria. He's a professor of history at Harvard University and is the author of several books, among them, Indians in Unexpected Places. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's start with that idea, Indians in unexpected places. Why is that?
You know, this book actually started as an essay about Native American athletes. And it actually started with me thinking about my grandfather's athletic career. He was an honorable mention All-American football player in 1922. And there was a moment where when I was giving a public talk, I would ask people, hey, name a Native American athlete. And everybody raises their hands and they say, Jim Thorpe. And then I would say, all right, name another Native American athlete. And not quite so many hands. And then people would say Billy Mills. And then I'd say, name a third Native American athlete. And that's it, right? And that the invisibility of that, of the long tradition of Native American people, American Indian people in athletics, led me to sort of think about what it means to be expected to be in a place or to be an anomaly. And so Jim Thorpe ends up being an anomaly. Here's a Native American person, American Indian person who is achieving at the highest levels, international levels in terms of sports, but he's not read as being representative. He's read as being just a kind of a one-off, an unexpected kind of thing. And part of the argument of that book was that there was very, very long traditions around using technology, around sports and athletics, around performance, where Native people were diving into the international cosmopolitan world in the early 20th century and doing all kinds of interesting and amazing things. So Billy Mills fits within that tradition as being both exceptional, but not really being exceptional, you know, in certain other ways.
And you also talk about how at the turn of the century, there were a number of runners who were just amazing in their ability to set records and to run long distance. Tom Longbow was one of them.
Tom Longboat, Louis Tewanima, Frank Mount Pleasant, who was a high jumper. If you go to the 1904, 1908, 1912 Olympics, what you find is that Native people are participating in a whole range of different kinds of things. And so there's a moment in the early 20th century where there's lots and lots of visibility and lots of Native people, especially in track and field, you know, kinds of events. And that carries forward into the 30s with Ellison Brown, who runs the marathon, wins the Boston Marathon. So there is this long tradition once you start adding up the number of Native people who are engaged in athletics and Olympic athletics as well. What you find is there's a substantial number, that it is a tradition, you know, of our own.
So why aren't they as well known? And I'm thinking in terms of the commercial aspect of athletes today, endorsing their products, being out in the forefront. And of course, social media today has really changed that landscape. But back in those days, what kind of opportunities were there for these athletes?
You know, it's really interesting, and especially in the early 20th century, a lot of the opportunities around running were not necessarily, there were competitions, there were also informal races, and then there were kind of what you might call spectacle races. We're going to run 400 miles across the Southwest. We're going to run across Northern California. And so it was part of that culture of the early 20th century and into the 20s of people doing these sort of spectacular things, and Native people being included because they were curiosities, right? My friend Matt Gilbert has a fantastic book on Hopi running, and he goes through a whole series of runners who are engaged in these kinds of things.
And, you know, and I'm familiar with his book as well. And Louis Tewanima, who went to 2 Olympics, the 1908 Olympics and then the 1912 Olympics. Yet when he came back home to Hopi, he really didn't talk about it. He wasn't like, you know, saying, I'm an Olympic medalist, or so that side of it, the athletes themselves, how much promotion did they give themselves or do to make their feats well known?
Yeah, I think that's a big difference between today and those days, that this wasn't part of a kind of media strategy. Mainstream media tended to represent them in these ways, as we said, as curiosities. It didn't have the same kinds of meanings. And I think your interview with Billy sort of suggests this, that there are many, many different ways in which to experience sports and athletics and being a runner that don't have much to do with creating a media presence or getting acclaim in a sort of traditional, American kind of way.
All right. Well, Phil Deloria, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
This is Indian Country Today.